This episode of Mission Log Live is brought to you by the Eagle Moss Shop, home of official Star Trek collectibles, including rare and highly prized Starship models from all Star Trek TV series and related productions. Use the promo code MissionLog for 10% off your order at shop.eaglemoss.com/USA/missionlog. Good evening, cats and kittens, Star Trek fans and Star Trek pals, people and other people. You know it, you love it, you can't live without it. It is Mission Log Live. I'm Ken Ray, asking you to come along with me on the search for John Champion. And actually, John's still away, incarcerated, some might say, paying his debt to society. I mean, officially, he's on vacation. Unofficially, well, that's for other people to decide. Oh, some would say parole boards, but, you know, John's absence leaves the Star Trek talk to you and me and our special guest, Larry Nemecek, he of the Star Trek The Next Generation Companion, he of Stellar Cartography, he of Portal 47, and of course, he of the Trek Files, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast right here on the Roddenberry Podcast Network. As far as our topics tonight, you have your choice. We can talk about Captain Picard, we can talk about Admiral Picard, or we can talk about Star Trek Picard. And of course, you have your choice of ways to join the conversation. You can join our Zoom meeting on our Facebook page. You can use the one tap from your smartphone, or you can call 669-900-6833, 669-900-6833. You talk to Earl, and if you can answer for his questions 3, you will be on with us. Hey, let's say hello to people in the chat room. Hello, everybody in the chat room. There's Paul. I see Paul there. And then there are other people, I assume, because I'm seeing things go by. There's Dave. Oh, there's Steve Sheridan. Hello, Steve. Tell Allison I said hello. And, you know, other people. Hey, Donna's there. Hi, Donna. How you been? Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for hanging out in the chat room with us. If you're catching us live, which is great. If you're catching us later, by the way, all these people are getting together on our Facebook page, facebook.com/missionlogpod. And they hang here live and they talk and they put in questions that I can't possibly read. But I hear they have a lot of fun in the chat room. So I'm glad they're here. You might also be watching us live on YouTube, by the way. That's up and running again. youtube.com/roddenberryprod. That's cool. Maybe you're catching the audio-only Star Trek podcast later, by which I meant the audio-only podcast later. However you're catching this show, we're really glad you're here. I would ask you to do me a favor, hit like and hit share wherever you are finding it, because, you know, the more people who know about it, the more fun is had by all, right? I think so. I got some business to take care of before we get into the meat of the show. Our fundraiser for Scott Palm and the Heroic Curriculum continues. That's a curriculum with 2 goals. First of all, teaching children with serious physical disabilities resilience, healthy identity, breaking barriers, and other crucial mental health and life skills. Then the other thing is teaching the peers of children with disabilities inclusion, ending marginalization, and being an ally. Now, it's great work that Scott's doing, and it's not particularly easy work because Scott has cerebral palsy. And so, you know, getting from point A to point B, it takes help and it takes money, which is why the Roddenberry Foundation is joining with you to help Scott, you know, help everybody else. So what you do is you go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/missionlogpod. You'll see a link there to the fundraiser. You'll see a picture of a very dapper looking John Champion and Chase Masterson and then Scott Palm as well. All 3 of them, I think in Vegas last year. So look for that picture and then, you know, click the link there and follow through, read about it and do what you can. And if what you can do is money, that's great, because the Roddenberry Foundation will actually match your contribution. If money is not something you can do right now, hit share on that, because the more people who know about it, like I say, maybe you can't donate, but maybe somebody else can. Somebody you know who's like, oh, Bob retweeted that? Your name is Bob for this exercise. Bob retweeted that? I'll look into it. And, you know, good work is done for everybody. So look for us, facebook.com/missionlogpod. Look for the picture of John and Chase and Scott and do what you can. Next up, Mission Log. We are finally going back to Deep Space Nine. The Search, parts 1 and 2 this week. The House of Quark next week, because, yeah, we are back into the swing of mission log things. Also, if you have not been listening to the Daily Star Trek News podcast, that's the new show on the Roddenberry Podcast Network. If you're not listening to Daily Star Trek News, why? Details on the Star Trek animated series for Nickelodeon, strolling through a virtual Orville, how Saru got his swagger. You missed those and a bunch of other stories, plus trivia, Trek history, Trek events in your backyard, 15 minutes or less, Daily Star Trek News with Allison Pitt. Find it wherever you find podcasts, or check out its home on the Roddenberry Podcast Network, podcast.roddenberry.com. Got some other stuff coming up to tell you about. Sansar, virtual reality things. Larry Nemecek is actually going to be in Sansar. He's going to tell us more about his event later, but go ahead and circle your calendar now. The 13th of June, Larry will be talking stellar cartography. We'll hear more about that in a bit. And then the 20th of June, fingers crossed, we're going to be doing the White Room in the Roddenberry Theater in Sansar. Stay tuned, because we'll have definite stuff about that in the very near future. And of course, we've got conventions coming up. San Diego Comic-Con, Larry is going to be there as well. We'll talk to him about that in a bit. And Star Trek Las Vegas, we're all going to be there, and hope to see you there as well. So yeah, tons of stuff. We'll have a table, of course, at Star Trek Las Vegas. We'll have panels at Star Trek Las Vegas. We'll have drinks at Star Trek Las Vegas. So if you're not going, you should think about it. And if you are going, be sure to catch one or all of us. Collect us all. Hey, we got a poll, just like we do every week this week. Well, actually, last week. Let's do last week's poll first. Which would you rather be, on Star Trek or in Star Trek? Would you rather star on a Star Trek show, or would you rather live in the Star Trek future? 88% of you are done with this timeline. 88% say you want to live in Star Trek. 12% say you want to be on Star Trek. Okay. This week, which Picard do you want to see? Because I don't know if you've heard, but there's a Picard series coming. Actually, they dropped the trailer for that late last week, I believe it was. The question is, which Picard do you want to see? Do you want to see talking Picard, or do you want to see action Picard? Talking Picard would be the one from, the TV series, or Measure of a Man. That's talking Picard. Action Picard is Die Hard in Space. I can't think of the name of it. Starship Mine, I believe that was. But really, First Contact, the one who drove around in the dune buggy in Nemesis. Which one do you want to see? Talking Picard or Action Picard? Talking Picard is seriously winning right now. 87% say they want to see Talking Picard. 13% say they want to see Action Picard. That poll, by the way, is available on our website or on our Facebook page, facebook.com/missionlogpod, and it'll be up for the week. So until the next time we start this show, you can vote for which Picard you want to see. Now, when you call in tonight at 669-900-6833, feel free to ask me a question. Feel free to ask Larry a question. But what we're talking about is the Picard series and, the Picard character as well. Personally, I would love to hear your hopes for this show. Yeah, you can also do your fears of the show if you want to, but really what I'm hoping for is hopes for this show and pitches. If you've got an idea for what this show should be, and it's far too late, by the way, because I think they're like almost halfway through filming the episodes that we know about. But if you've got pitches, if you've got ideas for what the show can be serious, can be funny, I'd just love to hear them. So join our Zoom meeting. Facebook.com/missionlogpod is where you'll find the link to that. You can use the one tap from your smartphone, or you can call 669-900-6833. 669-900-6833. That is all the boring businessy business out of the way. So it's time to bring in tonight's guest. Larry Nemecek joins us now. Dr. Trek, proprietor of Portal 47. He's an author. He's a Trekspert, and he is flying alongside today. Good evening, Dr. Trek.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ken, for allowing me a side seat here. I mean, I'm sure John will turn up sometime. I'm sure he'll, but you can't worry about that now. The ship of state flies on, and you're looking very suave there in your
Oh,
black jacket. I'm
well,
sorry, I didn't do the champion thing here with the jacket tonight. So
yeah, no, it's okay. Well, John's not here, and you might think that I'm just like trying to be a pale imitation of John, but really, you can't get much more pale than John, can you? Hello. Sorry, that's not nice. I would say it if he were here too, though, so I think it's okay.
I
Yeah,
know,
no,
it makes it
this is a this is a work in progress. People will see this change over the next few weeks, hopefully, on the show, and then it's going to be like a completely different thing by the time we get to Vegas. So yeah, it's like this is the blank canvas, unless I don't get to it, in which case, it'll just be an oversized tuxedo jacket, and that'll be fine too.
kind of like a Ken Million or something by then, maybe.
Wow! Thanks for coming, Larry. It's been great having you.
I don't know where that.
No, it's fine.
Well, we'll send it back into the
let's talk about the Picard series. I mean, I don't know which way to go. I will tell you the funniest thing I've seen is there was a vintner on Twitter who said the biggest question that's raised by the Picard trailer, and then he proceeded to talk about the way they tied the vines in Family is very different from the way they're tying the vines in the trailer, and I thought, man, this is just hitting all kinds of nerd now. Talk to me about, I mean, I know it's just a teaser trailer, but talk to me about your immediate thoughts off the trailer.
Yeah, I just love the fact that hashtag Picard is so universal that now we have that layer of Vintner canon is creeping in now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We'll have the Vintner bots and the Vintner trolls.
See, the question that I asked, I know it's just I think it was a poster actually, but is the delta shaped part of the vineyard now canon? Because that could come back in 20 years when somebody besides J.J. Abrams takes over the movies.
That's true. No, look, when the trailer dropped, I was just smiles from one end to the other. And seriously, aside from smiling and kind of being in awe, the first thought I seriously had was, how things can change in 4 years, in 3 or 4 years. The self-assured confidence that trailer spoke about the production and everybody with a hand on this series versus the labored birth that Discovery had, and all the miscues and missteps and a lot of question marks and stop-start and people coming and going. And to me, it was just a world of change. How much things have changed in 4 years, and how much this well-oiled machine is starting to become. I mean, there's a lot of points to get over, but how they're coming out of the gate with something that I thought, had to make everyone smile. Then, of course, I went online and saw some nooks and crannies, but nothing at all like what happened, when Discovery bowed. And I thought it was such a wonderful. I mean, if you're going to set up the premise that of all the questions about what this show would be about, and I've been calling it the Loganization of Picard, I thought that, and then everything that's happened has kind of confirmed that, right? As an acting piece and as a canon piece and for the franchise and all that. But when you have the voiceover say, Admiral, why did you leave Starfleet? Well, you've answered 3 or 4 questions right there. And then I see the people, making fun, pissing on the Vintner angle. What is this? A Viagra commercial, which then was literally brought to life by one prankster. But I thought, well, I'm sorry. Have you watched the series? If a guy is in his senior years and he leaves the thing he's been to all of his life and he goes home, in this guy's case, he goes home to the vineyards. And did you not see the finale? Did you not see Family? So it made total sense. And it was very comforting. And, it had all kinds of little Easter eggs, both visual and audio, like the Resican flute at the end. And anybody to me, I thought anybody who was cheering, was rooting for this series should just be sitting there, bigger smile than a Cheshire cat. Of course, I was proven wrong a few places, but overall, I think don't you think most of the world took this and ran with it?
How do you mean? I mean, first of all, I love the Viagra thing. Actually, in positivity. Yeah. Okay, here's the thing. I don't think the Viagra thing was actually saying anything bad about it. I think it's just a funny overlay. It's almost just like a mashup or something.
It was within the family.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Right. I will tell you honestly, I thought about having as the poll question tonight, can this show fail? And I'll tell you why I thought about that as the question. Picard is just a larger than life character. I mean, I will grant you, I was not as deep in Star Trek when Generations came out as I am today. And Shatner and Generations felt sort of tacked on, but I didn't hate it. It was actually good. There was something interesting about seeing those two characters inhabit one space. Now, years and years and years and years and years of thinking about it, it's ghastly. But my immediate thought was I enjoyed it at the time. What I really wondered, though, I mean, because you've got now Michael Chabon. I don't know if you read his interview earlier this week about.
Not recently. I saw his first big interview, but go ahead.
Oh, no, he did an interview in the last week or so. In fact, if you were listening to Daily Star Trek News, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast, you'd have heard it quoted. He basically talked about the fact that I think one of the quotes in it was, dystopia is done because we're living in it. And he feels like what he wants the Picard show to be is that, sort of hopeful future that a lot of us felt maybe was missing from a couple of the series that have come since TOS and TNG. So, I mean, that's kind of an exciting thing. The idea, I mean, you've got a Pulitzer Prize winning and a Hugo Award winning author in the writer's room dealing with a character who, I mean, we've asked the question, do you want him to be action Picard? Do you want him to be talking Picard? That character has filled both of those roles well. So you've got a character that we want to love. You've got writers in addition to Chabon who have earned their bones, if you'll pardon my use of that term, going in and creating a series that I wonder honestly, could it fail? Now, as you point out, there is an internet, so obviously the answer is yes.
Well, no, that writer's room, and a reason I didn't. I saw that quote about dystopia from Michael Chabon. I had thought that was, he pretty much said that this initial interview about 9 months that I seized on, because he was talking about the thing out of that interview that I loved was he was of my mind, and I was growing so disappointed during the fallow years when occasionally I would talk to one of them or somebody else would do an interview with some of the vet, like Ira or Ira Bear or Ron Moore or some of the greats. And they seemed so fatigued with the idea of doing a new Star Trek, like the canon and all of that would just be an anchor around their neck for the freedom that a writer would want. And I'm like, no, are you kidding? Look at, and I always point to our novelists, our Star Trek licensed authors, the amazing things they do. With one of them now in the writer's room, Kirsten Beyer, and in the writer's room for Picard. In fact, I saw some people crediting her with, in their brainstorming of ideas for another show, she's the one that said, let's get Patrick and do this. A lot of other gears had to turn, right? It wasn't just her snapping her fingers. But and I think it was Michael Chabon that tweeted the picture from their whiteboard of them sketching out the layout, speaking of star cartography, of the Federation, the Romulans and Klingons, basically on a white. Here's the basics and how they all fit together. Which on the side, when they announced, when Alex Kurtzman said, "Oh, it's going to deal with his personal aftermath to the destruction of Romulus," I went, "Aha! That's what it's like the clues are aligning here. The dots are connecting themselves." But and on a practical level, Patrick is 78, and he's in awesome shape. But it's not. I mean, all deference to your poll about the percentage that Thoughtful Picard was winning. That's probably about the breakdown of how the Thoughtful Picard scenes versus Action Picard scenes, I'm thinking, will play out now that I'm thinking about it, and why the cast around him is younger. But I don't know how you expect anything else.
Harrison Ford broke his leg playing Han Solo. I'm just saying. I mean, that was not thinking Han Solo. No.
I am not putting Picard in a corner here at all.
Right. Okay.
Don't take me wrong.
Hang on. 669-900-6833 is the phone number to call. 669-900-6833, or you can use the one tap from your smartphone, or go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/missionlogpod. Then click the link there, and then you get to talk to Earl. Cosmo actually did one of those things. I'm guessing he used the one tap from his smartphone. I don't know. But Cosmo, how's it going this evening? Uh-oh.
Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted. What's on your mind tonight, man?
Good to see you, Ken. Larry, nice to meet you face to face for once.
Yes.
I've been bugging you on Twitter. I'm Starfleet Panels, or whatever my handle is. I don't know.
Oh, that's you. Okay.
Yes. So nice to meet you.
Talk about hitting some buttons. Yeah.
I looked for a beer, but all we had was champagne. So what the heck? It's Tuesday. To answer Ken's question, what are my hopes and fears? I honestly don't have any fears going into this because I have faith in Patrick Stewart. He did not need to come back for this. So I know that he was wowed by the pitch. And if it was anything mediocre, he would not have agreed to come back. So I am as fear-free as I can be going into something that I am this excited by. And at the same time, I'm going to try and keep my expectations kind of nice and even keel because hype is not the friend to fanboys. And the flute at the end of the teaser gave me all the tingly feelings. And what are your guys' feelings about so far? The cast that's been released are all newcomers. How do you guys feel about cameos from past Trek people?
I'm for them. I mean, I'm definitely against having any cameos from past people.
Well, some people just want to move the story forward, and I'm certainly one of those grumpy people who, griped a little bit when Discovery went back in the timeline. And so now for me to be going, oh yeah, well, I'd love to see Riker wherever he's at, but then that's so. But I'm definitely hoping there are some cameos, and it's going to be Picard's story. But I'd like to see a few interspersed in there.
I personally, I'm going to trust the writers, or hope that we can trust the writers anyway to tell a good story. I was discussing this with a friend of mine the other day, actually somebody else on the Roddenberry podcast network. And one of the women at Warp says, if there is no Beverly Crusher in the Picard series, then they've done a disservice. But then I think about, okay, and this was brought up by a friend of mine, like I say, how many people do I talk to on a regular basis that I talked to 20 years ago or 15 years ago? Mm-hmm. And that number, I believe, is 1, maybe 2. And that one person is somebody I've known since I was a child. And then everybody else, people that I would have thought, this is somebody who's going to be part of my life forever. One lives in another country right now. We haven't talked in over 15 years. Others are just gone. I mean, the thing is, we lived on the Enterprise for 7 years, and plus the movies. And then when that was over, that was still where a lot of us lived. And so you can't imagine Picard without Crusher. Except there was Picard without Crusher right before we started watching Next Gen, and there's plenty of time for there to be Picard without Crusher afterwards as well. The same goes for name any character. Will B4 have evolved into Data as he did in the comic books? I mean, do we get a Brent Spiner because he looks older? So probably he might not work for Data on TV at this point, and Riker and everybody else. I mean, I want to trust that they're going to have a good enough idea that the show will not suffer. Would I like to see them? Honestly, what I'd rather see is a Crusher series. I'd rather see a Crusher series and a Riker series, or even just like, a 2-hour movie or something. I would like to see each of these characters get their due rather than each of these characters being a prop for, just like a thing to make the fans happier, I should say, with the Picard series.
That would be great. Have some shorts, not short Trek short, but a Riker. Yeah, that's a great idea.
An hour, 2-hour movie, something like that.
Yeah, because my if they put Riker in there for 5 minutes, that's going to make you want more. And I'd love to see Q. I know that wouldn't work because John Delancey's older, but their relationship was so dear to my heart that it'd be nice, but I know it can't happen. And I'd certainly love to see a Voyager person or a Deep Space Nine person. 20. How far along after? Is it 30 years past Nemesis?
Have we heard, Larry?
It's 20-ish. The number 20 was thrown out a lot, and since Nemesis was 2379, then that became 2399. But then when they talk about if the emergency that he responded to in the Cataclysm was indeed the destruction of Romulus, that was 2287. And if it's been 15 years since then, that would be 2502. So, it's been an evolution of things since then. So that was some of the chatter online, and that's all good stuff. But it's within that range. It's within that range, yeah. But here's the thing to throw out: if indeed any of the folks, and it's cute watching social media, it's watching them turn up at conventions and seeing the chatter because they're getting bombarded with it. All of them, Gates and Marina and Michael, and of course Jonathan's directing. He's directing right now, but watching them all dodge and dance the question, and it's gone from no one's talked to me to nope, can't talk about it. So you have a full cast, but if they are dropped in as cameos, hopefully it's well done. Like you say, you don't want to see more of them, but at the same time, you can't always predict a Pike, and he had a whole season. But we'd at least know these actors and roles. But if that is going to happen, you're not going to hear about it right now. I mean, those are going to be the little bombshells that come out way, way further down the line. If the show doesn't even premiere till November or December, then that's down the line. But it needs to be a standalone show. And again, I saw folks in the chat over here talking about, he's got a lot of good years left. And yes, he does. They wouldn't have embarked on this journey and even talked about it going 3 seasons. I mean, one of my fears was that this was going to be a 10-episode, one year operation, and we were going to actually end with his death at the end somehow. It was going to be the end of the character, which was a downer. And oh boy, if you want to go dark and if you want to be all 2019 on me here, but they're talking about, we could go 2 or 3 seasons. So that's kind of out of the loop. So I mean, just everything about this. What surprised me is, again, watching fandom react. I've been so personally reassured by every little thing, even the whiteboard where they're sketching out where everything is, and it's accurate because Kirsten's in there and she's not going to let them go off track. But watching the things people have popped up to talk about, but even then, most of it is in that healthy old fanboy fangirl sit at the bar or sit in the back corner of the club room, and debate fan stuff. Most of it's been there. So I'm pretty somewhere between excited and the fact that everything that's been unspooled has been what I rather assumed, because it's like, look, what was it going to be? He's not going to be an admiral with a crew and a bright shiny captain admiral on a bright shiny ship with a bright shiny crew running around doing adventures. That's old hat. And that's exactly what they got to was, no, I didn't want to do the same old again. That's what I didn't want to do. So is he an admiral? Is he a retired admiral? Is he an ambassador now? Is he still in service? Did he retire and they've pulled him back for a mission? Had they pulled him back for a covert mission as an ambassador? Or was he drummed out over, was it a branded situation where he was thrown out the legendary Jean-Luc Picard was kicked out of the service or demoted or whatever over something that was not true, and he took his lumps and went off, and now he's going to quit. It's like but here's like there are 7 or 8 obvious paths for it to go to. And the minute that trailer comes out and says, Admiral, why are you coming back? Well, he's standing there in Starfleet headquarters, so obviously he's not persona non grata on a traitor sign, with like Eli Hollander or something. And he's there of his own volition coming back, and it's been long enough where the young ensign didn't know him. So it's all feeling like it's like this is exactly what we would think. There'll be surprises in the details, but the basic sketch of the show, I don't know. What do you think? Basic sketch of the show seems like this is about what it had to be, given 2 or 3 basic choices.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Are you asking me or are you asking Cosmo?
Both of you.
Go Cosmo.
Go Cosmo.
Well, that is reassuring that it's more than 1 season, because like you, I would be just on edge that, okay, it's going to end with him dying, and with only 10 episodes.
I'm not talking about it already being planned for more than 1. I'm just saying in the writers' heads, they're thinking it. Yeah.
Which is reassuring, though. And with only 10 episodes, I would get a little anxious if it felt like any of it was wasting time. But with the possibility of more, there's a heck of a lot of room to grow. And this whole season might be his journey back into Starfleet. And then who knows what, if there is a season 2, what that might entail, ambassadorship or being an admiral again, coming back into the fold. Ken, what about you?
I'm going to say pass. I mean, because I heard a rumor forever ago that I hated, but nothing that I've seen since then has indicated that that rumor is true. And I can't tell you how happy I am that I can sort of like forget anything that I even thought I knew. I was worried that it was going to be dark, dark, dark 2019 dark, as Larry said a moment ago. But then the Chabon quote, or Chabon, or however you say it, the Pulitzer Prize-winning author's quote saying that everything's been too dark to this point, and he would like for this show to not be that, made me the phrase is happy as Larry, but Larry's right there, so we can ask him how happy.
That's the phrase.
Hey, anything else on your mind tonight, Cosmo?
No, but I totally agree with you, and especially after the last time I saw Patrick Stewart on screen, he was crazy old Professor X in Logan, and so I was a little worried, especially when that quote from a year ago from Kurtzman saying Picard is drastically altered from the man we knew. From that had me a little worried that we were going to get crazy old man Picard, and we know nothing, but he's at a vineyard, and so I feel better about that. And
no, wait.
Tonight
Alex was just talking about the toupee. That's all he was talking about.
I will say the one thing. I mean, if you look at the rest of his work, right? I mean, he does Family Guy, which is just voiceover, but I mean, he's nuts in that, but in like an energetic, fun kind of way. He also had his series that I wasn't a huge fan of, but I watched a bit of it. I think it was called Blunt Talk.
Blunt Talk, yeah. Yeah,
which was not Old Man Picard. It was not Old Man Xavier. It was again sort of like batty old man, but it was energetic. So I mean, it's
Larry
you're right.
David
It's
kind of a ish.
Yeah, well, ish.
And he was a
meth.
bad guy skinhead Nazi leader in the movie Green Room from a few years ago.
Yeah, which I heard about, but I haven't seen. Part of me wants to see it, and then part of me doesn't want to see it because, I watch the news. So
yeah, it was dark. And, I always see the guests come on here with their little Star Trek stuff, and I always get jealous of all the ships John and Ken have from Eagle Moss. So I brought out my Generations big old Enterprise D with the battle damage. And I love that the bottom pristine and the top with symmetrical damage going down. But, I figured I'd bring out mine tonight.
Well, thank you very much. Oh, wow. It makes noise and everything.
Oh, yeah.
That's
straight from
cool.
1995. But
cool.
Pleasure talking to both of you guys, and love the show.
Good to meet.
Thank you very much, Cosmo.
Bye-bye.
669-900-6833 is the phone number to call. 669-900-6833. We have Kevin lined up to talk to us in just a moment. But first, I got a little bit of business to do. If you don't mind hanging on for just a moment, Mr. Nemecek.
I can do it.
Thank you very much. Because I want to talk about our good friends at Eagle Moss. Oh, Cosmo just mentioned all the Eagle Moss ships. There's some up there behind me. Of course, there will be beautiful video footage of some coming up in just a bit. Fans of all the different Eagle Moss ships, be they the original collection of 5 to 6 inch starships, the larger Star Trek Discovery collection, or the even larger XL editions, if you're looking to add to your collection there's tons of stuff out there. The Eagle Moss shop is open and ready to do business. And because you're listening to this right now, you can actually get an extra 10% off select models. What you do is you go to shop.eaglemoss.com/USA/mission log, and then look at the stuff that they have there. It's an interesting variety. I mean, there are some things you'll recognize, like there's a Klingon bird of prey there, I think, and other. I don't want to say standard ships because they're all beautiful, but ships that you've seen on screen. Then there's other stuff like Rick Sternbach's early concept model of the USS Voyager. There is the now legendary interphase USS Defiant from the original series episode, The Tholian Web, and it glows in the dark. There's an Andy Probert design for, I think it was the NCC 1701C, which I don't think is the one that made it to the screen, but I'm not 100% certain. There's the USS Titan, as seen in books. That's right, as seen in the Star Trek in your mind. Look around. You're sure to find a ship or 5 that scream, "Buy me, take me home, put me on your shelf." Officially authorized by CBS Studios, each and every model is die-cast, hand-painted, and comes with a display stand, plus an in-depth magazine featuring exclusive artwork and highlighting the ship's history, its design, and its place in Star Trek lore. To order, Go to shop.eaglemoss.com/USA/missionlog and enter promo code missionlog, all one word, at checkout to receive an extra 10% off your order. That is offer code missionlog at shop.eaglemoss.com/USA/missionlog. And a huge thanks to Eagle Moss for sponsoring this week's show. 669-900-6833 is the phone number to call. 669-900-6833, or you can use the one tap from your smartphone, or you can go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/missionlogpod, and click the link there and be on with us. We're going to get to Kevin in just a moment, but Larry, I had mentioned a couple of things that you're going to be doing over the next couple of months and said we would talk about them later. And guess what time it is?
It's later o'clock. Wow.
It's later o'clock. Yeah. In about 2 weeks, I think it is 2 weeks from Thursday, you're doing a thing in Sansar.
I am. And thanks to Roddenberry and thanks to Sansar. We did the bloopers. We did a program with the bloopers a few months back, and that was a lot of fun. This time, we're actually going to be on point with stellar cartography. And for those of you that don't know, the Sansar Theater, the Roddenberry
Roddenberry Theater in Sansar.
In Sansar, yes.
Yeah.
Is a great, I mean, if you have VR goggles, you can use them. Otherwise, you can just come on with a Windows, sorry, Mac folk, but a Windows flat screen and be there with your avatar, but interacting as an audience in this 3D environment. Actually showing, we had bloopers, but you've had movies, you've had speakers, you've had that, and we're going to have we're going to have a look at, I say stellar cartography anymore, and it dawns on me that not everyone carries around the romantic vision of Nella Darren, you know, from Lessons and stellar cartography. Nowadays, you say stellar cartography even to a Trek fan, and I'm worried that people think, oh my God, what is that, like an upper level physics masterclass? So if instead we say something like star nerddom or star canon or something from Trek, maybe some people will, get their eyes will light up a little bit. But it's not only how real science and astronomy and the Trek fictional world have all been blended that we see now, including on Discovery, but it's like the evolution of that. It's really a kind of a fun thing. And if whether you're a longtime fan or a newbie, I hopefully will throw out some nuggets for you. But it's the first thing, one of the first 2 or 3 things that grabbed me when I was first a fan was realizing when I got Bijo's Concordance, oh my God, look at all these stars in here. They're not organized. And that was like, well, let's do it. And now we're to the point where there's even been a history of eras of how Star Trek star mapping has been. So I'm going to share some of that. And the whole Sansar environment's just very wacky to think that you're all in there and you're, realistic or not realistic avatars and interacting. And we can, have Q&A and all that. So I'm really looking forward to it on the 13th.
Very cool. And then also, I know we don't have as many details about this, but both you and, you and John and me and a bunch of other people are going to be down at San Diego Comic-Con in July.
Right. We have basically a podcast. We've done it 2 or 3 years here.
Mm-hmm.
We're not allowed to say
no
the date or the time, but just rest assured, sometime over the 4 days of San Diego Comic-Con, we'll have a panel. And if you know anything about how they've done the podcasting type panels in the past, it's in the same place that it's been the last 2 years. So I don't want to be shot by the Comic-Con police, so I better not say it.
You can't say it's in the same place, but it probably is somewhere near the same place that it might have been every other time you've done the panel.
That would require foreknowledge, and I think that caveat I'm safe on that. So So if you're down in the old down in the gas lamp district for those days in July, come over and see us.
Yeah, that panel was fun last year. So hopefully
it's grown every year. So hopefully we'll right. And then can I say real quickly, I have a panel again. I can't say where or when, but Robert Butler, who was a guest on Portal 47 and Open House a couple of years ago, who was the director of The Cage, and aside from Laurel Goodwin, who played Yeoman Colt, is about the only hands-on person from The Cage we still have with us. He and his son are going to be down. I have an hour with them over. That was my other panel approved. It's kind of like a meet and greet, not a meet and greet, but an hour with Robert Butler, who's a longtime career director, has this one contact with very pivotal, and with all the hoopla about the Cage and Pike and number 1 this year, the
Yeah.
and all of that in Vina. I thought it was apropos. And anyway, it's great that we still have him with us, and I'm really looking forward to that too.
Very cool. So obviously, keep it here, because as these things get closer, as we're actually able to say what the panels are called and when the panels will be, John and I will be sure and mention it on Mission Log Live and Facebook and Twitter and all the places that we do. 669-900-6833 is the phone number to call, 669-900-6833, or you can use the one tap from your smartphone, or you can go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/missionlogpod, then click the link and you'll be on with us. Kevin, last name. Am I saying Kevin's last name or am I not saying Kevin's last name?
Well, Larry, of all people, should know that if you invoke Star Trek authors on a live podcast, it's like Beetlejuice. We just show up.
Dillmore.
It's exactly like Beetlejuice. That was
exactly.
That was
there you go.
And Winona Ryder could play young Amanda. So right.
That's
or something.
That's true. Although she and Mia Kirshner might have to fight about it now to see who actually gets to do that.
Well,
right.
Hey, thanks for calling in.
I serve at her will and pleasure. So that's, I just do it. I'm told. I'm excited about this Robert Butler thing though, because here's something, Larry, I think you know, but that's not my brother-in-law is John Hoyt's grandson.
Oh, you did mention that to me once. Yes, John Hoyt played Dr. Boyce and a million other westerns and everything all over the years. Yeah.
So I always enjoy connections to the Cage, and so that's something I will see if I can break away from the place that I usually hang out. That I don't know if I'm allowed to pimp online, but the place where people normally find me.
Well, I'm glad that you're able to send the very best for those who know old time with your comments.
It's because I care enough, Larry. It's because I care enough.
Yes, to send the very best.
Precisely. But no, I've enjoyed eavesdropping on your Picard conversation. It's nice to know that people are coming into it open-minded. I know that sometimes in the world of Star Trek and the world of the internet that the negative opinions can sometimes overshadow the positivity. But I am sensing in this case it's not really happening. Is that what you? Are you both of you picking up the same thing?
Again, that's what I've been seeing. Yeah.
You're saying the negativity is not outweighing the positive. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm hearing the positive comments not going away. I mean, I feel like they're rising up over. There's always going to be skepticism. I mean, there's skepticism on a show we like from episode to episode. I mean, we saw that with Game of Thrones. For crying out loud. I mean, we're signing petitions to rewrite a whole season. But I just feel like that. Overall, my barometer, but you guys have your finger on this pulse tighter than me. It's feeling really positive, which I am very heartened by.
Yeah, well, I mean, not to keep harping on the writer thing, but the fact that the writers, one of the lead writers on it, one of the biggest named writers on it, is saying that that's what he wants it to be. I mean, that does fill one with hope.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't finish.
It's only been like a week. Forgive me really quickly. It's also only been a week since the teaser trailer dropped. So, I mean, there's plenty of time for horrible, negative things to come, to come poking through. I certainly hope that doesn't happen. I mean, because, look, I think the reason that Pike was such a revelation was because Pike was a good guy, right? I mean, I think people want a captain or a leader in whom they can believe. And Picard has been that to this point. And it's hard to imagine, even if he's no longer a captain, even if he's no longer an admiral, even if he's no longer in Starfleet, he's still going to be a guy, I hope anyway, that people are going to want to follow. If he's a reluctant leader, that's fine, as long as he's still the guy who we know is going to do right when we get to the end of the day.
The path. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just said that all the elements, the core elements and textures that make up Picard are still there.
You're right. Well, right. I mean, the path that we won't know, and the path we won't know if the writers are going to explore in detail, is what has shaped him, in the interim. Would anyone have guessed in 1981 that Jimmy Carter would be the former president he's become. What happens to the leaders that we see, that we hold an opinion of over the course of time, and where they, I grew up in the same town as Eisenhower, and people still will look back at some of the comments that he made at the end of his tenure rather than his service during the 1950s and early 60s. It's just, I'm excited to see who he is now, and where this story is going to start.
Let me ask you both a question. Because Larry, I think you were referencing something that was in like maybe a little bit of leaked footage, which I honestly haven't seen. I'm working from the comments that the authors made or that the writers have made and the teaser trailer. Can we actually take anything in the teaser trailer as, I don't want to say canon, but I mean, can we assume that they're actually going to move from the teaser trailer, or is the teaser trailer literally there just to tease us to be excited?
Like the welder for Star Trek 09 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Hey, that was a great tease.
I loved that. I don't want to name names, but I know somebody who's in the Star Trek, thing, who thought that was like one of the worst teases ever. And man, I had that living on my browser, because I thought that was just, it was just an absolutely fantastic thing to watch.
That guy, Anthony was his name, was my first video interview when I first started my blog in like 2008.
Okay, that's cool.
Which now, I never thought of it until now, and I'm like, oh, holy smokes, that was 11 years ago, and now it's a thing, and it's like covered in dust already. So
the reason I asked the question is because, Kevin, when you say what are the things that have changed him, well, something happened 15 years ago that he left Starfleet. So, I mean, there's obviously a thing, unless all that's a MacGuffin, unless all that's just like,
I think it'd be fair to say that, what do you think if we were going to go, if you were going to point to what we've seen on screen, the top one or two most traumatic experiences that we've seen Picard endure was, his transformation in the Locutus and back again. Mm-hmm. And where did he go after that? He went to the Vineyard.
Right. He went home.
So he went home. So now we've seen something that has drawn him home again. And the only thing I can imagine is that this is going to be something that, at least as far as, emotionally, intellectually, system shocking for him, to drive him home. And so I'm eager to see what that story is going to be.
I'm really hoping for lots of talking. I'm not kidding. I mean, when we did,
we're owed.
The question in the poll was, do you want to see talking Picard or do you want to see action Picard? I'm hoping for lots of, real consideration about where he's been, what he's doing next, as opposed to just we have to quickly run over here and turn off this thing and then shoot that guy. And then, so this other stuff doesn't blow up. I mean, I'm hoping I would like contemplative science fiction as opposed to, wow, look at the effects.
And we have all those 30 and 40-year-olds to handle some of the action. I'm not saying that it should be, an unrelenting snooze fest, but you haven't heard anyone coming out of the gate on the creative side talking about having to meet the Game of Thrones bar like you did with Discovery, thinking that's what was going to get subscribers. That was what was going to get eyeballs. That was what was going to break out of the Star Trek audience. No one's talking that way with it. This is all about Picard and character, and Patrick, who's not only in the writer's room, he's an executive producer. So I mean, those can be platitudes, but that's there. There's money where the mouth is there. So,
and I sincerely believe that this is not that he was enticed by the concept, not the paycheck.
Exactly.
I'm sure the paycheck is going to be nice, but there's no reason to believe that he's doing this just because he wants to make another deposit. I think something awakened this character in him again, and I credit the writers for coming to him with an idea that did that.
Well, and not only is it not about the money, which it's obviously not, and it's not about having something creatively different enough to be challenging, just as a creative as an actor, which is said, but the downside of it, there is a risk. Risk is our business, I know. But the risk is, what if you're the legendary Sir Patrick who played, Picard for all those years on TV and built this franchise and became a rival to Kirk as far as, the pantheon of Star Trek heroes. And then what if you go out and you blow it? What if you have a series that fizzles? Or even on a Star Trek scale, it's just and leaves people going, oh, I wish they hadn't come back after all and try. I mean, that's as big a risk as anything that figures in the formula here. And they're plowing.
Well, you're making me want to watch Aftermath again, Larry.
Yeah, all these shows were like, yeah.
Wow, that's kind of ow.
Pre Keiko Rosalind Chow, yeah.
let me.
But no, you're exactly right.
There's a risk. There's an underside if this doesn't go well. So they're doing all they can to make sure that it is.
Well, let me go completely the opposite way on this, though, because I know people who love Discovery. I know people to whom there are specific characters in Discovery that speak to them in ways that no other character has spoken before. But I don't know that Discovery has been able to break out of the Star Trek bubble in a way. Star Trek broke out of, because the Star Trek bubble didn't exist. So Star Trek, in many ways, and there are tons of people you can talk to who will say actually changed the world. Are we past that at this point? Is there too much TV? Is there too much other stuff going on? Can a TV show still change the world? And is there any shot that the Picard show could do that? Or is there now a Star Trek ceiling and it can go as high as the Star Trek ceiling, but no further?
I'll say real fast. I thought in the 90s we got to a point before the .com boom and before the Iraq War and before 9/11. Right. Yeah. I thought there was a point where maybe we didn't need Star Trek anymore. The carpet on the walls and the therapist on the bridge was really starting to kick in. And then when things started to go to shit again in the aughts and now in the teens, and what Michael Chabon was talking about, the dystopias out there for our vehicles. That's one thing that you could say about Discovery and Picard and all of this, is that the world does need Star Trek, assuming it's done well. That we are much more ripe for it now. It's needed in the world. And that's my, I don't want to be Pollyanna about it, but I think there's a gut. All the people out there that don't know Star Trek, that don't know they're going to need it by the time it gets to them, hopefully.
Kevin?
And I would say something similar. I think that I've reached a point that I don't walk into a movie or a TV series needing it to do the heavy lifting. But I sure enjoy a TV series that makes me feel great when it's over. Even if it's a tough story to watch, I'm just glad that I saw a creative effort on a myriad of fronts come together. Because it's sometimes, when you think about it, even just an episode of a TV show is pretty miraculous. I mean, for everybody to really be on their game and make something happen between performances and scoring and editing and cinematography and the writing. And I mean, when you look at all the pieces and parts that come together, how does this happen? But does the world need Star Trek? I think that the world needs something optimistic and hopeful. And right now, that Star Trek is the one place I go to that I can count on it happening. I mean, I can't even go to my from my kid days. I was either watching Star Trek or reading comics, and comics don't carry the hope, the consistent hopeful stories that that I can just depend on with Star Trek. I just feel like it's a place we can go that we can see good, smart people doing good, smart things consistently. And then that's what I think there's room for.
Yeah. And occasionally things go awry, but you want to think that the arc of the narrative of the history is coming back to that, the onward march upward.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I mean, we want drama. I mean, that was something I think that, that people, I only know what I read, and I only trust Larry when it comes to Star Trek history. But when
heavy wears,
the story, yes. But the stories I read was that there were dictums from the top that was, this is not to be a show about conflict. This is a show, this is to be, people getting along and doing things and whatever. And, that sounds great on paper, but it's difficult to watch. And when you add conflict, I think that's, and that's where hope arises from conflict. It's not just, it's not just the constant steady stream. I think that's the difference, between, shoot, even Family Circus had conflict. Is Billy going to get home in time for dinner? And who's going to clean up all these dotted lines?
Family Circus.
You're just awful. You're awful for calling in and never do it again. Actually, I really appreciate it.
Last time.
I know. I really do appreciate your calling in, and yes, absolutely. We need to have you back on sometime because I don't want to fight with you, but I want to have that discussion that you just started, with 3 minutes left in the show, longer at some point. But in the meantime, though, I do have to let you run. Thank you very much for calling in tonight, man. I appreciate it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Just thank you for letting me on, and hopefully I'll see you both in San Diego.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, before we all part ways, I want to remind you about something that we would like for you to do after this show. Stay on Facebook and catch the live recording of Priority One, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. Kenna's last night is tonight.
Oh,
she, by the way, yeah, well, her real name or her other name is Allison Pitt, and Allison has that new show that she's doing now for the Roddenberry Podcast Network. So she's saying a fond farewell to P1. And of course, that show will go on. Elijah, Anthony, and who knows who else will still bring you news from all over the Star Trek multiverse every Tuesday night at 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 Pacific. That's when they record it live. So don't go anywhere. Go someplace, but come back by 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 Pacific, and settle in for Priority One, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast, streaming live as it happens at facebook.com/Priority One Podcast. And as always, if you can't catch it live, it is getting late on the East Coast. If you can't catch it live, podcast.roddenberry.com or wherever you get your podcasts, that's where you can find Priority One. Drops every Friday morning, so be sure and check that out. As long as we're talking about other things for people to do, Larry, you've got a bunch of live stuff that you do on Tuesdays. You've got Portal 47. We've got about a minute. Let everybody know everything you want them to know.
Well, right here on RPN, of course, we have the Trek Files,
Absolutely.
which is there every Tuesday morning, early Pacific time. And had another great show this week with Fred Bronson. And we've got Dorothy Fontana coming back and more guests coming. But yes, my Facebook Live show is at 1 o'clock for 1 o'clock Pacific every week. We had a great show today. Talked about some of these same Picard topics. And the end of June, we're talking about, there are some new locations in that trailer too. We have a new location for Starfleet headquarters. And who knows where they shot the vineyard scenes at this moment. So locations are a fun thing around LA. And I love doing that with the Big Geek Nation tour, which will be back next year before Vegas. But in the meantime, if you like a day tour, I do treklandtreks.com. And coming up at the end of June, we have a prepackaged version of that, more on a budget level, called LA Away Days. So go to my website at larrynemecek.com /away days, and you can get all the info there. June 29th and or 30th.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much for joining us and talking Picard tonight, Larry. I do appreciate it. And I'm sure I'll talk to you before San Diego, but I'll definitely see you there.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Ken. Trek well.
Mission Log Live is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. Executive producer Rod Roddenberry. Technical production on Mission Log Live by Earl Green. Hey, be sure to visit podcast.roddenberry.com for the latest from the Roddenberry Podcast Network, including not just Mission Log, but also Women at Warp, Priority One, The Trek Files, and Daily Star Trek News. If you'd like to support Mission Log directly, patreon.com/Mission Log is the place to do that. Some cool stuff there, especially now that we're back into regular Mission Log recordings. We'll probably get back into doing some videos there occasionally too. So patreon.com/Mission Log to learn more. Thanks to everybody who joined us live or later. And we will talk to you next week.